Hello, hello, hello. I just wanted to pop in and encourage you. I am super excited about this interview series. You are going to be inspired as you move forward seeking your purpose. You'll get information here that will help you on your reinvention journey. So, no, just taking small steps, no matter how small they are, you are moving forward. You're moving forward in that trajectory that you are trying to create for yourself. So, stay tuned, listen in, come back for the whole series. I know with each interview, you are going to get a nugget that you can apply to your life and be on the path for fulfillment. See you later. Welcome to Blossom with Pride podcast, where we help empty nester moms move forward. And we are so delighted today to have Dr. Clack with us. Dr. Angela Roman Clack, that is, and she is no stranger to Blossom with Pride. You may recall last year we did a special with her where she helped us talk some of our empty nester moms off the ledge to let them know that it was going to be okay. And so we had such a wonderful conversation with her, and she gave such great tidbits and guidance for us. So we wanted to bring her back to, again, help our empty nester moms who may have just experienced the empty nest for the first time this fall, and to take the conversation a little further, just dealing with some of the things that we as women in our midlife might be dealing with. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to some of you, Dr. Angela Roman Clack, who is a licensed psychotherapist and owner of Clack Associates LLC, which is a private practice outpatient counseling agency in Southern New Jersey. She's been working in the mental health field for more than 25 years, and she is known for her ability to teach, supervise, coach, and train in the areas pertaining to adults, youth, and their families, because she's also a trainer's trainer. She trains other of her colleagues in the field. And so we're just so happy to have her today. So welcome, Dr. Clack.
Thank you again. As always, it's always a pleasure to sit with you, break bread with you, commune, whatever we want to call this special time together. Thank you.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. And so, as I just shared with our community, you are an expert in your field. You've been doing this, and tell us a little bit about your practice and your work so other people can just get a little bit more familiar with you.
Absolutely. So my practice is a group practice. So I have two part-time clinicians who work with me, which I wish I could steal them away from their full-time jobs because they're such a great therapist. And then we have a virtual assistant to help us kind of do the day-to-day and really a lot of the behind the scenes things that often don't get the attention. So shout out to the team that I have because, no man, no woman is island. You do need a team. And I'm still building a team.
Mm,
So our practice has primarily served Black and Brown women.
mm,
We started at the age of 17, so we don't do young adolescents anymore. So we go from the emerging adults, the young adult teen kind of person, some 17, we go all the way up through 60s. We get some people are 70s if they choose to come into the practice. And they're often things that probably everyone who's listening today or watching today is around moods. People are struggling with depression and
mm,
anxiety. People are
mhm,
struggling around an area that I really have focused on is a lot of women in the workplace, a lot of workplace trauma, the microaggressions, the racism, the prejudice, and just working with difficult bosses is a thing.
mm,
So we've been working with more women in the workforce in that area. And then we do general distress. It could be relationship. Could be some women are really on the search to find themselves and they don't know where to turn. So sometimes it's the conversation about is it therapy or coaching, which would be life or executive coaching.
mhm,
So, and sometimes it's a little bit of both. So the area when I think about what we're going to talk about today, I always talk to women about seasons. And I'm saying, think about your life in seasons. What season are you in this stage of your life? It could be a developmental season. It could feel like a trial and wilderness experience season, or it could be a season of like this kind of acceleration and this growth and promotion. So I always tell people, think about life in seasons, and we can compare that to like winter tends to be a harder season depending on where you live. Summer, people are happy because the sun is out and things. So you can look at it like that. But then I go deeper into, well, what season means there's an extended period of time that something is happening in your life. And it
Mm-hmm.
really is about self-discovery and growth when you look at seasons, because you're not just
Mm-hmm.
supposed to stay stuck there.
Yeah.
It's a season so that you can grow. And from that, you then go to the next season of your life. And so
Right.
that's many of the women that we're also treating in the practice.
I love that because now you're talking my language when you're talking about seasons. So we we delve heavily into the analogy of blossoms and growth because of
Ah,
the name blossom with pride. And so, a blossom, a tree blossom, let's say, is a sign or a symbol that that tree is growing in a healthy way,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
It's
mhm,
growing, it's maturing,
mhm.
and it is a sign of hope because the fruit is going to come once you see that
Yes.
blossom. And it's that's just the potential that people have, and we see that potential in other women who may not see
Mhm.
that potential in themselves
Yes.
at the stage that they're in. So I love that. I love that.
Yes. I like that you do the seasons. The other thing, and I know it's probably played out, but I really do, I love butterflies. And
Mm,
so I love when I'm walking and they cross my path or they kind of run into me as I'm walking. But I also think about the metamorphosis and change that women go through, and then they come out like this beautiful butterfly. So when you're in it, it feels ugly and healing is messy. But then when you kind of come through that, we all see these beautiful multicolored butterflies that just seem to soar and kind of float through life like they have no care in the world. And so when I think about seasons, I also think about butterflies because they do represent change as well.
hmm And the struggle, I'm not a biologist, but like someone shared with me during that stage that they have to like push their way out the cocoon,
Mm,
and it's force and it's work and it's
yes.
hard. Yeah. So yeah. Well, I love that you just talked about healing, right? And
Mhm,
so for many members of our community, particularly when they're just entering that empty nest stage, and some of them may still need some healing, and it could have been some years from the
mm,
time that they entered that empty nest stage. But
mhm.
what would you say? How would someone begin that healing process of dealing with maybe the loss and the pain of change?
The first step is to embrace it.
Mm,
One of the struggles that I see, and I hear this often when I'm working with clients. I don't like change. I don't like change. I don't like change. If something comes up on our work together, I may have to change the schedule, or we may do like a course change in their treatment. Oh, I don't like change. So we keep putting out into the atmosphere, into the world, into kind of like where we're functioning, a lot of negativity. And
mm,
so the first thing is how we speak to ourselves. So I say embrace it. Change is designed to create growth.
mm,
Change should never be
mm,
about feeling defeated and going backwards. That's
mm,
a different process and that's a different conversation. So we have to look at change as something that is good, is
mm.
positive,
I
is
love that.
forward, is
Hmm.
progressive, and embrace it. It doesn't mean you have to accept the pain of like that butterfly analogy, that stretching that requires for them to get out of the cocoon. You don't have to like it. There's a lot of things we don't like, but you may
Mm,
actually love what you become. You don't have
mm,
to like the process.
hmm
If you do, that's a plus, but you don't have to. But you
hmm
have to like it and love yourself enough to want to endure it. So you have to
Yeah.
embrace it
Yeah, yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah. I love that. And as you were talking, my spirituality kicked in. I was just thinking, like, having that attitude, okay, God, what new thing are you doing in me now? Like, okay, you got something new for me, something better for me.
Yes,
So, I love that reframing because it's all about the mindset, isn't it?
it absolutely is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So, what would you say to a woman who she's like, okay, this is a change happening. I don't like it. What are some steps that they can take to kind of build that muscle,
Mm.
of addressing change? Or what are some habits that they can employ to help them deal with this change?
So when I think about habits, when I think about strategy, the one thing about healing, healing is about community. And so much we try to do things by ourselves all the time. We don't want
Mhm,
people to know we're struggling. We don't keep
mhm,
wearing this mask of, you know, I can do this on my own. This kind of this that whole language we've been talking about for decades. But it really is to invite some of your village into your process. Maybe the village is just one bestie. That's okay.
mhm,
Or maybe the village is your group of people that you guys have met together for brunch for the last 10 years, whatever. Is don't be afraid to share what you're going through. I tell you, this thing
yeah,
about feeling embarrassed and ashamed about thinking that, well, people have always saw me as the strongest person in the group. And if I tell them like I'm struggling, I hope that they're already seeing you're struggling, and I hope that they were waiting for you to say something. Because if
mm,
they know you, they kind of can tell like something has shifted or changed. But yeah, invite your village into your healing process. Like so the first step is to tell somebody, hey, even if it's a prayer person, hey, would you guys just include me in your prayer this week? I'm going through this or that. That's inviting your village in to help you because this life is not easy.
mhm,
And I know it's not designed to be, so we know the word says in this life there will be trials and tribulations, but it didn't say you had to go through them by yourself.
right.
So invite your village into your process is the first thing I would say, because you're going to
Yeah,
need support.
yeah,
And the second thing around um, steps and strategies and habits is routines.
mm,
When we go through really hard things in life, we usually fall out of a routine that we once had. If
mhm,
we never had a routine, then we want to build a routine. But let's say we kind of already had a pretty decent routine, a morning routine, an evening routine, a little self-care regimen. And then we're going through something. You slowly start to see us stop doing things that we did when
mm,
we were more well. So we may not get our hair done. We may not wear makeup. We may stop putting on that lippy. We may find ourselves living in our yoga pants. There's a lot of things that I myself went through that I said, oh my gosh, I have to kind of get back to showing up for myself.
mhm,
And so routines are things that give you wellness in the moment. So maybe it's waking up and doing your devotion, your prayer, your teas, your coffees, your prayer time, your
mhm,
journaling, working out. If you work out, like those are things that I would definitely encourage people, but also nighttime routines. Like when do I stop my evening? Like there is a time that I should probably stop working,
yeah,
shut off my computer, and attend to my family or attend to myself. And so
yeah,
those are the things that start to lend you to wellness that sometimes we give up on when we feel like things aren't going the way that we want them to.
mhm. Thank you for that. Now, one of the things that many empty nester moms say is that, they've given so much energy, time, focus on their children, they neglected themselves. And that's kind of like a habit they created, right? And so now they find themselves kind of at a loss and they want to move forward, but just don't know how to. First, can you tell us from your experience what is at the heart of not caring for yourself, giving yourself the attention? Because whatever was at the heart of that while you had kids is probably still there
Mhm.
now, even though you have more time to focus on yourself, but there is a reason why you didn't value yourself as much as you should have.
So lots of reasons. Lots
Mm,
and lots of reasons because it may be different for different groups of women depending on different experiences they've had in their life. So
yeah.
there may be experiences of early trauma, which
Mm,
then almost spin some women into a different trajectory in life. So some
yeah.
of them become very parentified very early on. And so they're already taking care of people by the time they're 14, 15, or 16, and they just
Yeah.
kind of continue along that vein. There are other people who experience abject poverty, so things around money become very, very traumatic for them. So their
Mm,
life is a little bit different. So they may neglect themselves and spend money on other things or people because they just haven't had an opportunity to figure out the difference between their needs and their wants. And so they hold on to things.
mm,
That's all a part of what we may call trauma. And then some people just haven't, I think some people just didn't learn, maybe because their parents didn't teach self-care and self-love and things like that early on. So they just kind of figured out life on their own along the way. And one of the things I've been thinking about the last couple of weeks is I told myself the other week, I am like almost so over these conversations around self-love that minimize what it takes to have it, to do it for yourself because of the immense amount of self-neglect.
mm,
I have several conversations a week with women who have neglected themselves, and it is to the point they have sizzled and burned out. And it's
mhm,
hard to get them to come back from that to self love. So you have to actually start with burnout to healing, and then you teach self love because
mm,
that just feels to them too easy. Like, oh, that can't possibly work for me because I am
mm,
over here. I'm barely
mhm,
able to get myself out of bed. I'm barely able to take care of my kids. I mean, that is the ultimate burnout. And that can
mhm,
turn into something more like a depression. So
mm,
it really depends on where women are about how they got to self-neglect or how they just got to the place where that quote unquote strong Black woman narrative that has been around for Black women for generations, that they still kind of operate in that. I've had women I've worked with in therapy for years. We've talked about self-care and self-love, and they can teach it. They can write a book about it, but they don't incorporate it.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
so some of this is driven by economics, some of this is driven by a culture that says that you're supposed to work hard and work harder than your cohort and your counterparts. And
Yeah.
so some of this is the image of like, well, I want this life. And with this life comes these sacrifices. And then almost you become self-sacrificial. And not knowing when that's too much, you then find yourself talking about different illnesses and again, I'm back to burnout, not sleeping, probably not eating well, and then we're talking about the residual health implications from that.
Yeah. It's so funny when you said neglect, it just reminded me many, many years ago. I was working at a social service agency and I had to do some type of training about the different forms of child abuse. And neglect was one of the forms of child abuse, and it's like almost at the same level for us, right? That's one of the things that you're neglecting
Mhm,
just the
mhm.
effect. So, as you were talking, it's serious. It's not just something
It's
to say
very
or
serious. Oh,
not something to put aside. Oh, I neglect myself, but like this is serious, right?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? I remember when I worked in child welfare, the hardest cases to prove were neglect. You
Mm,
can see the physical scars of abuse. You
mm-hmm.
can also test and do evaluations for sexual trauma. The
Mm-hmm.
hardest cases were to prove were neglect. I mean, it would have
Mm,
to be abject neglect, like you walk in and there's no beds, there's no heat, there's nothing. The other cases seemed to take priority and they got bumped up. But
yeah.
neglect is hard to prove. And I think I see the same thing with women. They don't see this as neglect. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure what they would call it. I think if I said that enough, it might hit home that neglect
Mm-hmm.
is what they're doing, but that's not what they see this as.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the conversation I think we still have to keep having.
Yeah. And so I just want to help to inform our audience too. So if any of this sounds familiar for them and they want to seek professional help, what is that process like to seek help? What are the steps and what do you recommend?
Wow. Thank you for that. I'm seeing more and more women. I know that my practice every week we get calls. I know
Mm,
my colleagues, most of them have doors open and are getting lots of referrals as well. And most of it is more people of color that are embracing talk therapy. There are
Mhm.
lots of healing. There are lots of different modalities, lots of paths to healing. So sometimes it's a support group. Sometimes it's, let's say it's a mom who's going through what may be called the baby blues or postpartum, and she could use a support group of other moms who are going through the same thing with someone who's leading. So that's one way.
Mm,
Another support group could be someone who maybe is in a particular stage of a cancer or other chronic illness, and they have a medical group where they come together and not only learn about it, but they can support each other. That's a support group. So support groups, there's healing circles, there's different modalities. But the first thing is to have an evaluation with someone. Just sit down and say, give yourself the permission, first of all, to say it's okay to ask for help. That's the first thing. So once you
mm,
know, you're like, hey, I've had people said, I've been wanting to call for a year. I finally did it.
mm,
And now I'm here. And I said, hey, once you do the call, now it's the work. Don't worry. Get the call. But some people get up the courage, use
mm.
your courage to take that step towards your own healing.
Yeah.
So once you do that, the person who you meet with, and let's say, like, well, I don't know where to start to find someone. One thing I say is ask people. Say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm thinking about counseling. Do you know who I might be able to go to? Often they are themselves maybe seeing someone, or they have a girlfriend who's seeing someone, or they heard one of the therapists speak somewhere. Oh, I heard her speak. She's wonderful. Check out her practice. If that's now not a way, let's say you can't find somebody that way. Of course, Google is still an option, right? You
Mhm.
can put in, hey, I'm looking for a therapist, a Black therapist, a Hispanic therapy, whatever you want. You can put that in there, and it should pull up different directories. And then the third way, if you're using your health insurance, you could always call your health insurance and say, I need help. Because they're supposed to have assigned case managers. Every now and then I'll get an email from a practice, an insurance, and they'll say, hey, one of our consumers is looking for blah, blah, blah. Can you help
Mm.
them? So you can also do that. Yeah.
That's great. And so I don't think we talked about this with your particular practice. So yours is all virtual, correct?
We are all virtual. That's correct. Mhm.
And so, how does that work? I've heard different things. I know things changed during COVID, and I think things may be back, but do you have to be a resident in New Jersey, or are you able to see people across state lines?
So, in case you are wondering about that, so anybody who's listening or watching right now, things did change back. So during the pandemic, because there was such a need and a demand for therapists, particularly therapists of color, but therapists period in the world,
Right. Hmm.
they allowed, and even this is a state governor decision, but globally, they allow therapists to see clients anywhere they wanted to see them. So that means we could see someone in Colorado, New York, wherever. Things have now turned back. And so wherever you live, so I always tell people, wherever your feet are. So if you're a
Hmm.
resident of New Jersey, or if your
Hmm.
feet are in Colorado, you must see a therapist or licensed mental health professional who's licensed in the state where you live. Now, that therapist could be anywhere in the world. She could be working from Bali, living her best life over there, but she just needs to be licensed in the state in which you live.
Okay.
There are more therapists who are multi-licensed. So they're licensed in several states. So
Okay.
for us, right now, we are Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and
Got
we
it.
are virtual. Some
Hmm.
therapists are hybrid. So they do
Hmm.
some virtual for people who
Hmm.
can't get to them. And then they went back to an in-office practice as well.
Okay, so thank you for that. And I
Mhm.
should say right now, this is our disclaimer, folks. Although Dr. Clack is giving us great advice, this content is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnoses, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you've heard during this conversation. All right.
Amen.
Amen. Oh, and so one other thing that is a biggie, and it just, I don't know what um, advice or guidance you have on this? It's just women at this stage in their lives, and I'm talking, once you hit that 50 mark, some things
Mhm.
might start to change, some things are happening, and body image is a biggie.
Mhm.
So self
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that things that I see and hear, because you probably follow me, I'm a big person in fitness.
yeah.
So I joined all the fitness groups and during the pandemic, and even now, I joined all the fitness for women and fitness over 50 and things like that. And sometimes you would think that I'm in like a teenager's group
Oh,
because people are so focused on growing the gluteus maximus. So
yes.
so so they want that, and then they take pictures and they're like, "How do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of that?" Or,
Yeah.
some things that they're asking are the way that God made them. I'm like,
Mm,
you can tighten things, you can eat well, and also, that will also help you. But some things, when it comes to body composition, the way your body is then kind of like developed with fitness, is you have to do some things you might not have done before. So
mm,
yes, you might have to lift weights. And someone like, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to look like a man. You will never look like a man lifting weights unless you go with a trainer who is training you that way. There is
mhm,
no way. You would have to be lifting 100 pounds, and we don't. So
yeah.
you're not going to be muscular like a man unless you're choosing to. Some
Mm,
women, that is what they want to do. They're trainers or they want to do a competition. Absolutely. They love their body to look that way. So they hire people to help them eat a certain way and also to lift. And they spend a lot of time doing that. But for the everyday, we're working in a gym 3, 4 times a week. You will develop a certain body composition by the work ethic, what you
yeah.
put in and how you put in and how you eat. But it is
Yeah.
amazing to watch women who, even though we say we love our bodies and we love ourselves at 50 and 60, you also see 50 and 60-year-olds with these beautiful bodies and you want that.
Mhm.
Well, that's amazing and that's awesome. But do you know what they took and what they do to
Right.
get there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You had to develop the same kind of work ethic. And
Yeah.
sometimes people want shortcuts. And we already know,
Yeah.
surgeries and things like that exist because people want shortcuts.
Or the aging or the creams. There's a cream for
Mm.
everything. And
I have
yeah.
never seen that work before. Maybe they do. I've just never
Yeah,
seen it
yeah,
before.
yeah.
It's great marketing though.
I know. And so particularly I think with the concept of aging, there's probably like some deeper issues there, right? You're associating with aging in the future or death. And you hear the common phrase, a lot of people, when they hit this realization, they have more years behind them than they have in front of them. And that could be devastating for some folks, right? The
Mhm,
midlife crisis and all those
mhm,
things.
mhm.
What would you suggest, or how people can cope with that when that realization hits? Yeah.
I would say definitely, if you need to, definitely talk to someone. Therapy isn't always about there's a problem. Sometimes you want a therapist for perspective. And if you are one of these women who, like myself, we are in the stage of aging where we're starting to see different things about our body. And one of the things we have to be mindful is sometimes the mind thinks faster than the body. So your mind is telling you to do something, but the body's like, we ain't done that in like 4 years. I don't know what you're trying to do. And then you have an injury because
Mm,
you haven't either moved in that way or you haven't preconditioned your body. So, I'll give you a quick example. I enjoy fitness challenges. So so on Instagram and they say, hey, join a fitness challenge, do 100 squats in 100 days or something like that. I'm like, okay, that gives me structure. Let me add that to my workout. It seems fun enough.
yeah.
But I also like other challenges that are just fun and adventurous. So we did a wine 5K run, and I did it because of the scenery. You get to run through their vineyards. And I said, oh,
Oh,
that's a different kind of look. So me and my friend, we thought we'd do that. Well, vineyards aren't like paved streets.
right.
So of course it's grass and they're up and down and it's uneven. And of course,
Mhm.
I wasn't thinking that. I was just like, oh, I just want to run between the grapes. That's what I was like. So want to put on like my running tutu. I just run between the grapes.
Yeah.
And like it's a 5K. So I was like, I'm gonna mostly like walk and run anyway.
Hmm.
And I actually did hurt my foot
Oh,
because the ground is uneven.
right.
And
Yeah.
the thing about it is that your body, unless you're a trained runner, you would have, and like I'm not a trained runner, I'm just doing this for fun. Well,
Hmm.
trained runners already knew the terrain. So they
Mm.
kind of got it and figured it out. The rest of us are like, oh my God, my leg hurts, my foot hurts, and all that kind of thing. Well, my husband says to me, you do realize like you're not the same age as some of these girls are running. He goes, you know, remember how old you are. And I don't want to. I don't
Right.
want to establish myself by a number when it comes
Yeah.
to my fitness. But
Yeah.
the body says, I know you don't want to, but just be mindful that some things you shouldn't be doing anymore or at the pace that you thought you could. Figure it
Mm.
out. And there's nothing wrong with me embracing that. There is nothing wrong with me saying, okay, I used to be able to do these things. Now let me I might have to tweak it a little bit.
Modify. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta modify that thing. And it's the same thing with sometimes we feel like our body is betraying us. When you get a
Mm.
certain age and your body starts taking some of us through certain illnesses.
Mm.
Maybe it's arthritis, maybe
Hmm.
it's high cholesterol, high blood pressure, maybe we can't walk as much as maybe the mobility. I have friends who are like right at 50 who've already had their first knee replacement
Wow.
or hip replacement. So
Mm.
there are already things that our body is telling us, like it's giving you clues and it's giving you real alarming facts, like, okay, let's slow down in this. But maybe you just have to adopt it. You don't adapt things. You don't have to stop doing what you like to do, but you might have to adapt and to embrace. So some of us have to trust our bodies and we don't.
Hmm.
We've been through so many things in our bodies that we feel like our bodies have kind of betrayed us. That's the conversation you have with a therapist and say, hey, I need perspective on this because I feel like I'm aging in a way that's making me feel like I'm less of a woman if I feel like I'm not desired. So it could go in an area of some real intimate conversations for a woman, and you just want someone to give you perspective. And it might be something you're not really ready to talk to a friend about, but a therapist would be that's your person to
Right.
walk you through that process.
Right. Right. Well, these tips have been so helpful. I'm so appreciate your perspective
Absolutely.
and the tips that you've given us. I think that this can be a very exciting time for women. There's so many possibilities. And so I hope from this conversation that one, women realize they're not alone in some of the feelings that they're going through, and that, change, as you said, doesn't have to be something that we fear, but also from my perspective, change is available to us, meaning that if we aren't satisfied or content with something, we have the ability to make a change, make some
Mhm.
shifts, do some things that will give us greater satisfaction and greater peace. It's all about
Absolutely.
peace, right?
Yes,
We need
yes,
some peace.
yes, yes.
Peace. So I thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. You're
This is so
welcome.
good. I look forward to actually another conversation, but we'll leave folks where we are here and just thank you.
You're very
So,
welcome.
so there you have it, folks. We have another conversation with us here at Blossom with Pride, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Bye.